Well, hello everyone, I'm Neil Barenblatt with Creative Cow, and welcome to the first Fireside tutorial. Today we're going to be doing the part 2 of the 3D News intro. All After Effects, all compositing, all awesome stuff. So now I'm really excited. We're going to finish this thing up, make it look good. Just want to point out before we go into it that I've lit myself a pretty toasty fire here. So, you know, it's keeping me warm and, you know, just staying classy, staying toasty. So why don't we just jump in and see what we got, and I'll see you on the other side. Alright guys, we got a lot to cover, so let's get busy, not waste too much time, only a little bit. But we're here in After Effects, and as you can see, I've already brought in our assets and imports and organized them so everything is nice and easy to look at. So let's take a look at what we're going to be working with. We're going to be working with the cube, obviously, this little thing we made, perfect, just like we made, and the words that read Violent News 5, the greatest violent news program in the United States of America. No, it doesn't really exist, but you all thought it did. And one thing I wanted to point out while we're looking at it is that you can see there's some extra reflection in here of a random, I don't exactly know what. I'd actually put a texture on my sky, an HDR texture, and you know, it's like I didn't do it in the tutorial because I still don't think it's completely necessary. I think as long as the letters are reflecting each other, if you do think it's necessary, feel free to not do what I say. So, you know, whatever. But, so we have that. We're also going to be working with this texture right here called Color Changing Fabric Stock 2. And I just think it's a cool texture with cool colors and cool lighting. And you know what? It's cool. That's all you need to know about it. I'm sure I forget exactly where I got it. Probably CG Textures. And this concrete is just going to give us a good mood. Well, you know, not even so much as a mood as just an overlaying texture to give us a little bit more to our composition. The dot texture is absolutely essential to what we will be doing tonight, as we are going to be using this a good amount to really for the United States thing, where it's kind of like going in and out, sort of not really, I don't know how to describe it at the moment, but you'll see. So we're going to be using that a good amount, and of course the Earth map. And to be honest, we're not going to be using that Earth map. Let me bring in the one we will be using. It will be this one that we actually used for our cube. So yeah, sorry about that. Guess I didn't have every single thing prepared. So, you know, sue me. Okay, don't, please. But, yeah, so we have this, this here texture that we are going to use and abuse and make some cool stuff with. So let's get started. Let's make our comp. We'll do 1280 by 720 right now, just so we can render things a little faster than 1080. Cool. We'll make it 30 frames a second, and voila, that's it. If you can do that, you can do the rest of it. No, I'm kidding. We got a long way to go. So we're gonna name this Violent News Final, and we're going to put it in Final Comps because that's where it belongs. And to be honest, we might actually stick it in another comp by the end of it, but we'll put all those in Final Comps because we got more working comps to come. So the first thing we want to do is create a gradient. And we're just going to right click over here and do New Solid. That works, doesn't really matter because we're going to put a ramp on it. And a ramp generates this, just a gradient. So let's make the bottom color black and the top color kind of a yellow orange, just like that. Maybe a little oranger. Cool. And we'll bring the top point down and the bottom point down. Cool. And you know what? Now that I look at it, I'm an idiot. Let's reverse those. So to do that, if you decide you want to reverse it later, here's a good, you know, tip. Just reverse these points, just like so. Beautiful, loving it. We'll bring this way down. We want this to be not that way down, but just to be kind of a subtle up for this thing. The next thing we're going to do is create these little stripes that come into view over here. And so we're going to make a new solid and make it similar to that color we have. Maybe it can be a little oranger. We're going to say this is okay for now. Things can always be changed. And we're going to take the pen tool and just kind of trace one of these. So let's do it. We want it to look about not too much like that. So we're just going to play with some of these points. Make this one, don't do that. So press M, bring up the mask, and click on that point. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot more. Make this go in a little bit. Let's convert this by holding down on the pen and go to the Convert Vertex tool and make this so, you know, we can get some curve out of it. Word, we have a banana. So that's going to be good for that one. Let's hit Control or Apple D and duplicate this layer. And we will just move it a little bit and then just move some of the points around just so we can get some cooler stuff like this. And noticing that I'm doing that, I actually want the other one to look more like that. So let's do that too. Just make it thinner and more awesome. Yeah, you know, awesome. You can tell that's awesome, right? Cool. And we'll rotate, doesn't matter which one we rotate, but I'm going to rotate the first one a little bit just to give it a little more variety. Duplicate the top one and we'll bring it down to right about there. And just keep doing this. Just keep moving points around and moving the layers around. These are looking really banana-y. So maybe we can make them a little pointier. Probably could have done that by not making that a Bezier vertex style thing. But you know what? What gives? I do what I want. You know? Free country. So we'll move that around. You know, I think that's looking pretty cool. And we'll probably actually take the opacity down on all of these to about 40. So you can start to see them overlap each other. And we'll duplicate all of these and bring them up because that's how many we want. And just do something like that. Yeah. So now we got some goodness going on. We'll make all these a little bit bigger. Just to variety things up. And move them around. That may be too many. I'm going to take the top two off. Okay. So we're going to pretend that's cool. It's a little different than what I had, but whatever. Maybe I can get a little closer. We'll make them a little bigger. Maybe move them around a little bit. You know, all of that good stuff. And make that a little pointier. Ooh, yeah, I like how that one kind of like curves around. The other ones are still too banana-y. So let's... I know this is not the most interesting part, but it will lead us to the most interesting part and make us actually make something that looks presentable. So, you know, it's worth the extra tweaking. Now, I'm really liking this actually because it almost resembles fire and it's kind of random. So we're going to do that. A little bit different than what I had, but we're going to do it. The next thing we want to do is add this texture, the color changing fabric stock. And we're actually going to put this right above here for now. May change that later because I'm kind of doing this from memory. So I'm going to do everything in the best order that I can remember, but it may not be exactly how I had it. And I may be switching things back and forth and being like, oh, I forgot that I had it that way. So whatever, bear with me. Let's make this a little bit smaller so it's pretty much as detailed as we can get. That's pretty cool. And let's actually take that to the bottom. See, here I go. And make it overlaid. And yeah, that's pretty sweet. We'll tint it so its other color doesn't really get in the way of what's going on. So everything's a little bit consistent. It did change it to the overall orange I'm going to go for in the end, but I don't want it yet. And I don't want this black to be so harsh now that I think about it. So we'll just bring that up. Word. Cool. Maybe a little more harsh. I'm so indecisive, but that's what makes great stuff. Yeah, that's what I thought. So before I go keyframing all of these things, I'm just going to build the whole thing and then we'll start animating what needs to be animated. So let's go back and see what else we need. The earth stuff. Let's make the dotty earth first. So we're going to bring this texture into a comp. And what I want to do is create a comp that's actually the size of this texture. So just take the texture and drag it into this new comp button. And what that's going to do is create a special comp based on the dimensions of this texture and at some size or some length that I had it set to before. So we're going to name this earth dot basic. Cool. And by dot, I mean door. And by door, I mean dot, and not even spelled correctly. So we're going to drag that to working comps. Awesome. So now that we have this thing, let's do the dot. So we're going to take the dot texture, and what I want to do is, because right now the dots are black and the texture is white, right? So what I actually want to do is say take the opacity of this earth from the dots. So I'm going to have to go to the track mat right here and say take it from the luma of the dots, but the inverted luma. So luma inverted. So what that means is, instead of taking the opacity from what is white up here, it's going to take it from what's black. So let's see how that works. Awesome. You're probably thinking it doesn't look awesome. Well, that's because of a problem we have right here. We actually need the earth texture to be inverted, so that, well, you'll see. It'll be easier to explain once I do it. That's what we want. Because what's happening now is you know, it's just, we're inverting what should have been visible. And by visible, we mean white. So just make sure you invert the earth texture, and you'll get this result. So what I also want to do is take the dot texture and just make it a little bit smaller. I want more detail. And one thing we can actually do is, if we want it to be, let's say that, well, you know what? What I was going to do is make it really small and duplicate it. Duplicate it and bring it over there. But then you would have to start pre-comping and all that stuff. So I'm actually not going to do that. And, you know, I don't think I want them that small anyway. That to me is great. That's a great size for this. So now we have our dots that color, our map as dots. So let's color them. See now you understand the thought I was trying to convey, but I mixed my words up. So what we're going to do is use the tint effect on the earth map. And doing this will allow us to color whatever we want as the white map. So let's do that orangish thing again. Perfect. Awesome. So now what we want to do is take this into a new comp and start making these dots move. So let's take the earth dot basic, drag it into a new comp, and we're going to name this earth dot move one, because we're going to have two of these. So in earth dot move one, we want to give it some reference of movement. So we're going to make a solid, and it doesn't matter what color it is. We're going to add an effect. Hopefully you're familiar with it, called fractal noise. And fractal noise just is the world. So we're going to use that. Now we're going to do a little expression. Don't be scared. It's one of the easiest expressions we could possibly use. It's going to be able to make this evolution go automatically, so I don't have to worry about keyframes. You know, I could easily just say yada 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 and make this tutorial smaller and shorter, but I don't want to do that. I want to make it more complicated and longer. So what we're going to do is alt-click on the evolution stopwatch and type time times. And then we're going to type a number. And this number is basically the speed at which our fractal noise will evolve. So, you know, play around. You know, put the number in that you want. There is no right or wrong, kind of like life. That's what this is. So I'm going to do 250 and see what that looks like. So let's RAM preview for a second. I like that. For now, I like it. Always can change it. So let's increase the contrast and decrease the scale. So we'll do something like that and bring the contrast up just a little bit more, and you'll see why. because what we want to do is really create black spaces and white spaces for our dots to reference. So if we go, if we stay in this comp and do a luma mat with the earth.basic to the fractal noise, this is what we're going to start getting. You're going to start splitting these regions up. Now, obviously, I think I want to make this scaling a lot smaller, almost as small as it can be, because these dots are so close to 1 pixel, I think, or 1 unit. So let's make this 5 and see what happens. Yeah, see, the closer I make this to 1, the more it looks like each dot is actually turning on and off. And we can increase the contrast. If we lower the brightness, we'll get less dots on at one time. And yeah, that's what I'm going for. Perfect. So basically what's going on, if I turn this fractal noise back on, this is actually what's happening. If I ram preview this, it looks like an anthill or like really slow TV static. So we're referencing the luminance of this layer, and that's what's visible in this dotted map. So when we play through this, we get awesomeness. So fractal noise plus luma mat equals awesomeness. It's actually an old Newtonian mathematical equation. Or maybe it should be a Baron-Blaschen mathematical equation. In case you forgot, Baron-Blatt's my last name. So let's say that new Baron-Blaschen equation. Yeah, so that's what we got. So after dragging this into more comps, we're going to drag it into another one. And we're going to name it Earth.move. Oh, look, it already named it exactly. It knows me. After Effects knows me so well. So what we're going to do is actually use this to create a glow. And I'm just splitting up just because. Actually, that's not true. I lied. We're going to do another fractal noise. I just remembered. See, it's by memory. When you do this by memory, that happens. So I want to do yet another fractal noise. Pretty much the same thing. We'll make this one go a little slower. I'm doing this for the sake of variety. It's always a good thing to do. Just take the extra step and add a little chaos and randomness to your comps, and it'll look a lot more organic. And so that's what we're going for. So let's up the contrast again, lower the brightness. Maybe we're going to have to take the transform, the scale down a lot. Let's take it down to 13, a little bit bigger. Let's change the friggin' type of the fractal noise. So let's see what dynamic looks like. Okay, so we're going to learn something right here. Ooh, that's cool. Sometimes they don't really seem that different when they're this small. It's when you blow them up that you see just how different they are. But we really need them small. And since Smeary seems different yet still somewhat similar, we're going to use that at 13. And let's do Luma Matte. And let's see what we got. Way too dark. So we got to brighten this thing up. Oh, we're negative brightness. That is not what we want at all. We want something like that. Now, isn't that cool? Isn't that a little more varietous? Let's see what the other comp looked like. Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's just like an added feature. Let's try scaling it up a little bit and see what happens. And maybe increasing the contrast a little bit more. Yeah, I like that a lot. It's just more random, and that makes me happy. So this part's cool. This part's done. We can take it into our comp. Let's do it into our final comp. So Violent News Final, Earth.move 2. It sounds like a freaking website. Let's make everything we use in this comp the color green for go, and this is like totally unnecessary, but depending on how big your project is, it may be necessary for your brain to keep functioning, to color code things. I don't do it all the time. You don't have to. So let's drag it in there over our other stuff. Very cool. We're getting some stuff on the bottom, so we're gonna need to mask this thing out. So let's scale it down a little bit. That's about how big I'm gonna want it to be. And let's mask it just like that. And just in case we're cutting a few things off, we can feather just a little bit. And actually I want to go back into earth.move and add some glow to this. So let's add an adjustment layer and just take standard glow, just like that. If you've got star glow, you can play with it, so that'd be cool. So now we're getting a little brighter results, and let's okay, so let's just say we use the default for the glow. If we press Control D and duplicate it, now we start to get some real glow. So let's increase the radius. So I guess when I said we were done with this, I lied, but apparently I like to do that a lot. So we'll increase the radius a little bit. So now we get some good outer glow. And if we duplicate it even one more time and increase the radius a lot, it's not really necessary. So we'll undo that. I think that's good for now. Let's RAM preview it. It does kill a little bit of your render time, but totally worth it. I like that a lot. And you know, if those things move too fast for you, just change the evolution speed in the expression, and you'll get a slower movement of those dots, which is, you know, totally up to you. So let's put this on add, and yeah, that's looking pretty snazzy. Maybe we can put a curves on it and do a little adjustment. Maybe make it a little darker and a little redder, and take the opacity down just a tad. Just a tad. Cool. And we can play with that later. I think maybe this needs to be a little darker. Yeah. Awesome. Always making adjustments throughout the thing. No worries. So let's bring in the cube and start putting these things together. So we're going to bring in the cube right here and see that it comes up. Now we rendered this in 1080, so we're going to have to turn this down a lot, but not so you cut the thing off. You don't want to cut it off. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, it's pretty snazzy looking. It's not too bad. We're definitely going to have to color correct it. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's bring the curves on it and bring the red way up and the blue way down. And that's it. I mean, that's the color. We're getting there. Maybe bring the green up a little bit. Awesome. See, that wasn't so hard. We are going to do a little more to it. Let's put a glow on it because there's lots of glow to go around. So without spelling glow with 2 W's, we're going to take the glow and put it on it. Ew, that doesn't look like what we want at all. So let's bring the glow threshold down a little bit so it captures a little more of what we have on that thing, and increase the radius so we get a good, nice glow. And you know, it's taking from the original colors of the cube. I'm going to make A and B colors and realize that that still doesn't look good. So this is the part where we kind of have to play around. What I'm actually going to do instead is put that glow before the curves and make the threshold lower and bring the intensity up and bring the radius up. Yeah, now that's looking a little more like I want. It's a lot of glow, and we're going to solve that a certain way. I'm going to Control X and cut that, and we're actually going to duplicate this layer and apply it to this one. And remember to put it above the curves if you want this bronze kind of look. And now that we have it on a different layer, we can actually composite it a little differently. We can add, I like that a lot more, and then we can take the opacity down just a little bit. So by having it on a separate layer, it really helps with our control. It's a good habit to do. It does, you know, depending on what you do, you can make a mess out of your thingy, your timeline, but whatever. So let's this may not be necessary, but let's even duplicate this again and increase the radius a whole lot. And no, you know what? It's not really necessary. 2 is fine for me. So now let's bring in the text and see what happens. Awesome. Cool. Everything's starting to line up. The text needs to be color corrected just a little bit. So let's go grab our favorite curves again. You know, you don't have to use curves, but that's just the way I learned, so that's what we're going to use. let's make it a little contrasty and bring the red up, obviously, and the blue down, obviously. Just make this thing gold looking, you know. Make it match, because that's really important for when we put our final adjustment layers on. It's best to have everything matching for as long as you can. So cool. They're a little bit too yellow, so we'll bring that down a little bit and bring the green down a little bit. That's going to be fine. Awesome. So now we have a lot of our elements in there. Let's make the spinning earth, and then we'll keyframe these things, and we'll be on our way. So the earth, a very interesting little thing we're going to do. We're going to take the earth map that we have in here and bring it into a comp. And then what we're going to do, we have this 2500 by 1250 comp. We're going to use the CC sphere effect. And that would be this thing right here. We're going to drag it on. And by default, it makes us a spherical earth, which is totally awesome. But obviously, we need to make it a little bit bigger, so we can just increase the radius until it fills up a pretty good amount of the comp, so we have a little more wiggle room in the 720p comp. And if we bring down the rotation tab right here, we can rotate in the Y. And guess what we're going to do? Alt-click, times. Let's see what 150 does. See if that gives us good rotation. Yeah, that actually might be a pretty good rotation. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. It's too fast. Yeah, it's a little too fast. These things work differently for different effects. So let's rotate that and see what happens. That's pretty good speed. I'm going to make it a little slower, maybe a little too fast for mine and hopefully your taste. But this part, things like this are totally up to you, whatever you feel more comfortable with. I also wanted to, I don't know if I can, but if we can start it, maybe more over there. I think, yeah, just to get a little more land in there towards the beginning. But you may also decide that you want to actually start with the C and, oh, well, it actually doesn't look like that's, doing what I want at all. So, cool. You can actually, if you want, put this in parentheses. If you want to start at a different location, and just add some degrees to it. And by doing that, by adding degrees, so this is just saying plus 75 degrees, you're just changing the initial starting point of where this thing starts. So let's actually start it in the C. So let's start it 90 degrees later than we normally would have. So not 90 degrees, how about 150 degrees than we would have? Awesome. So in our animation, we're going to get a lot of land. We'll do pretty little more than one rotation. Actually, it's pretty much one rotation. And in the light, we're going to bring the intensity up just a tad and the light height up just a tad, so it's more even lighting. In fact, it looks like if we bring that to 90, it will be even lighting. Cool. We're not going for realistic Earth. We're going for some even lit motion graphics Earth. So now we're going to use this dot texture again and bring it over. And let's do an overlay and see what happens. Very, very not cool. So let's bring it back to normal, and let's see what happens if we make this a luma matte. That's very cool. And I think I'm just going to add a glow to it. So let's make a new adjustment layer, and lots of glows. Add this glow to it right here. Decrease the threshold, but increase the radius again. So we get this kind of thing right here. And maybe bring this down just a little bit. And so what I want to explain is how important the dots are going to be in creating our radial universal style rays coming out of the Earth. So you'll see. So now that we have this Earth how we want it, we're going to bring it into the final comp. So let's take Earth map, take it in working comps first of all, and name it earth spin dots and bring it right below the words, and we're going to make it a lot smaller and bring it over here. We want it to be on this side. And you know, now that I look at it, let's make it a little bigger and bring it below these things. Awesome. So I'm going to duplicate it and then find CC Radial Fast Blur and put it on this thing. Check that out. So let's increase the amount by a lot. And so the dots, look, you're getting these individual rays coming from it. And we can actually put a glow, you know, good guess, on it and increase the radius. So that's looking pretty cool. See what happens. You know, here's a good part of experimentation. See what happens if you put it above the radial fast blur. You know, that's pretty cool. So let's put it above and below. Crazy, crazy stuff. Are we gonna like it? Are we gonna like it? Are we gonna like it? Maybe if we increase the radius enough? No, don't think we're gonna like it. So yeah, I kind of like it like that. And let's take the original and we're gonna tint it just like so, and maybe tint both of them just like that. And let's add both of them as well. And let's take the tint of the top one and sort of sample this bright but not too bright. I don't know. Let's keep looking around. Yeah, I like that too. And we're going to do the same thing with the bottom one. Probably should have done that first, but whatever. So yeah, that's looking pretty cool. It's you know, it's not bright enough for my taste. I think we need to add another one of these and maybe make this a little lighter. Yeah, that's starting to be a little bit better. And so let's just keep going around. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. Maybe we can keep that glow on, bring the threshold down, maybe bring the intensity down just a little bit, and the radius down. All experimenting, my brothers. And bring the radial fast blur up on this second one. Let's get it going a little bit farther. So yeah, this is you know, this is similar to the look I had. It's really blurry and really washed out. So maybe take the second one. I mean, this is just playing around. This is exactly how you do it, but sometimes it just takes a little more experimentation than I may be able to get within this hopefully 30-minute tutorial. Will probably turn out to be longer. So yeah, play around with that. Pretty cool stuff. You're gonna get what you want. Got it. Yeah, you know what? It's so I can't help but play around with it and just bring it down a little bit. Bring the middle one down and this one up in color, so we just get a good solid. We want this kind of washed out look that the cube has. So bring the threshold down a little bit more, but bring the intensity down too. Maybe bring the intensity down on both of them. Cool. We're going to say that's good for now. We got some good solid rays and some good solid glow. So there's our earth spin dots. So let's animate these things and then color correct this thing and we'll be good to go. So what we're going to do with these orange solids is first bring them all where they're supposed to be, just like that, all together now. And go grab a linear wipe. This is pretty easy stuff right here. So we're going to grab this and put it on the first one and kind of line up the angle with how this thing is. And then if we move the slider, we can see that it sort of brings it in. So let's keep it at, let's find the first percent where it becomes visible, because that's where we want to start. So 90. And then over 20 frames, we'll bring it to the last frame where it is invisibility. Wow. Invisibility, to say something is visible, is the same as saying invisible. That's freaky. So bring it to 58. So now if we solo that and go ahead and RAM preview it, just like that. Perfect. We should probably feather it a little bit so it doesn't look so sharp. Awesome. So now I'm going to copy this effect and paste it at this point in time to the others. So they should, when I solo them, not you Earth, all come on at the same time. That's not what I want. So we're going to press U on all of these on the top three and randomize these a little bit. So let's drag those over, drag these over, and that one over. And we'll make this one shorter and this one longer and this one longer. And now we got totally random stuff. So now when we play it, ho! Ho! Crazy After Effects stuffness. So let's unsolo all of those and go ahead and take the resolution down a good amount because we got quite a few glows killing our buzz here. And just RAM preview this for a second and see that everything's coming together. There are the words, there's the Earth with the rays, there's the cube. The only problem now is it's just not the right color, really. And we're going to fix that. I think another thing I had done, well, first of all, now that I look at that, that really is too fast. So let's go in that really quickly and change the dots wherever I put them here to, let's say, 80. And this one, see, changing so easy to 40. So now when I play these, yeah, it's much more subtle. We don't actually want it to look like an anthill. We want it to look like half an anthill. And let's actually in the original, yeah, we're gonna take the brightness down just a little bit in both of these. So that, just like that, and let's, yeah, because I want these to look more like it's highlighting particular cities, not continents. So just like that, more random. You can still tell what it is. Maybe bring it up just a little bit. Cool. Yeah, as long as you can still tell what it is. But I think the juxtaposition of the world and blah, 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 juxtaposition, big words, blah, blah. One thing that's actually bothering me is I don't want it to interact to be, in front of this Earth. So we're going to cut it off right there and feather it just a little bit more. Cool. Yeah, that's a lot better. It's too much to be over there. So be able to recognize things like that, take care of composition, and you'll be good. And it's really nice how it's coming through this cube, just like that. And yeah, that's the comp right there. Let's put it back in full swing and see kind of what we're looking at full res. Awesome. Excellent. Really cool. Let's color correct this thing. I don't even think we're going to... well, yeah, we'll put it in a new comp eventually. But before we do that, let's add an adjustment layer. And what we're actually going to do is add something called a tritone. And a tritone is kind of like a tint, but you basically set three colors. You set the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows. So what we want to do is set this to something much more orange, kind of like that. And then we're gonna blend with the original about 65%, so we retain a little bit of what we had. And it'd be nice if there was a little more variety in here. So let's go into the cube and bring the red up a little bit more, and maybe even the blue up a little bit more. Cool, just to create some variety. And I don't know, maybe you don't want to. Maybe it's fine just how this is. It's a really nice, consistent look. Another thing I am gonna do is to we don't need another freaking adjustment layer. We just need some curves, and yeah, give us a little more contrast. Now that really brings the rays and the Earth out. That's pretty. That's what's, I think I just kind of forgot that we were gonna do that, but that's really bringing the glow and the rays out. So that's fantastic. Looking good, cool stuff. That's looking awesome in the back. So what else can we do to this? I think we can also add some noise maybe to it. And if you add grain I think it's going to like crazy up your render time. Oh my God, look at that. And it only gives you a little box. We're going to do fractal noise. So add a new solid and go grab your fractal noise. Bada bing, bada boom. And evolution. Time times really slow, really slow. This is more about the grain, not about the, I don't know, what rhymes with grain? Brain, I don't know. So we're going to set that to slow evolution and transform all the way down. All the way down, like 2. Yeah. Come on, noise. That's what we want, noise. This is just so much of a faster effect than add grain. It's still not as fast as we would like it to be, but it is a lot faster. So let's put it on an overlay. And let's see. Let's go into here and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's a little too noisy, a little too much. We can increase or decrease the brightness to give us more or less noise. So we'll just, what we're going to do is give us a lot of noise and then take down the opacity to kind of like that. And that's kind of cool. Let's see how actually, let's solo this and see how fast the noise is actually going. It's actually going way too slow. So let's make this 80. Something way faster. Still, it's really subtle. Let's bring it up to 200. Not 2000, 200, and play. You know, I think that's kind of cool. It's so small that it's so subtle. So let's just RAM preview a little bit of it. Yeah, so that is just subtle enough, looking pretty awesome. So the last thing we're going to do is bring this into a new comp and call it Final Cam Move. And it's going to do exactly what that says. So we're going to, actually we're not even going to add a camera. We're just going to keyframe the scale at 0 seconds and at 5 seconds bring it to about 110 without the noise. And that's a really subtle move. That's all we're going to need. Let's put it in quarter and just see the move in terrible quality. Totally subtle because we really, you know, we could do more, but we don't have a lot of room to play just because we didn't set it up that way. So, you know, if I might be kind of hard to see here, but it is doing a little camera move and it does make things a little more interesting. But, and I think we really have gotten the, if not close to the result that we were looking for. I think these can be played around with a little bit more and maybe, you know, just a few tweaks here and there. But overall, I think we got something looking really good and really solid. It's just a lot of different cool elements, sort of a smorgasbord. And, you know, that's the Violent News intro tutorial. We did the 3D part. This is the After Effects part. And now we're done. Alright, thanks guys for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you take something home with you and really and make your own and, you know, all that good jazz. More to come. Stay tuned to Creative Cow. I'm Neil Barenblatt and stay toasty.